Hey everyone, welcome back to Bridging Purpose and Profit, where we explore different paths to income that are unified by purpose, strategy, and consistency. I'm Bree of Bree Brands Consulting, where I help small business owners and content creators level up their business. So in this space here, we are going to be talking about honest conversations because we want business owners to have that encouragement and know that they don't have to run into burnout with their business and it can truly make them money. And so if you're replacing your 9 to 5, this podcast is here to remind you that there's more than one path to get to alignment, clarity, and intentional action. With that said, today's guest is Miss Lisa, a productivity coach and host of Positively Living podcast and founder of Positively Productive Systems. Lisa's on a mission to redefine productivity with compassion. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Bree. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes, I am so happy to have you. And so as we get into our conversation today, let's go ahead and jump into an icebreaker. If your current workload was a headline in the newspaper, what would it be?
Okay, it would be breaking news. Productivity coach takes her own advice and avoids overscheduling as much as she can.
Breaking news. Okay, I love that. Okay. For me, it would be breaking news. The to-do list is done. Woo,
Like
I
done for,
tell you.
like you got rid of it, or like,
Yes,
or like done, like you got. Yeah.
It's going to be me telling the story of how Lisa helped me.
Yes, I love it.
Yes.
I would read that.
Exactly. So for you guys that are listening or watching, comment below. What would your headline be? We want to know about your workload. So in that, let's go ahead and jump in. Can you share a little bit more, Lisa, about your business and your mission?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. So just as it says on my podcast, actually, so it's Positively Living Shame-Free Productivity Conversations.
Ooh, yes.
If that was the only thing that we could talk about, the only words I could share with you, I think that really sums it up. The idea of shame-free productivity conversations, we still want to get stuff done. We still want to succeed. We're high achievers. We're multi-passionates. We're excited. But just like you said, and just like you're all about, we don't have to do it by burning ourselves out. There's a better way. And that's what I'm about. That's what Positively Productive Systems is here for. Because I lived it. I lived survival mode as a caregiver for my mom. I had my 2 babies and my mom, she had Alzheimer's, and I was in absolute survival mode for years. And I thought I was a pretty productive person, and truly I was. But if you took the systems that are out there and you took the expectations that the world puts on us and society expects from us, I mean, I felt like a failure, and I felt exhausted, and I felt like something was off. And thankfully, that whole experience, it changed me, and it changed the way I saw what it is that I was doing, how I'm doing it, and how I choose to do what I do. I walked away from it saying there has to be a better way than going back to what I did before. To putting myself in those situations where I'm just spinning my wheels, and that I can still achieve what I want to achieve, but I can do it in a safer, healthier way, a way that's more me. And I think that really sums it up. And my MO has always been, I figured this out. How do I help other people do the same thing? We have conversations. Ooh, can you teach me this? And it started with decluttering and helping people organize their homes. I progressed as a professional organizer, but I thought, you know what? If we organized our heads and our hearts, if we figured that out, we'll get there sooner, and everything else will fall into place. And that was the origins and the intention that I have behind Positively Productive Systems. And over the years, I've gotten certifications in ADHD management and stress management, and really holistically understanding how our lives affect everything we do. And that's what I love about your conversations here is you're talking about purpose and profit, that you can have both, but you need to have those underlining drivers, I think, and an understanding of our needs, right? How we heal and how we move forward while life is lifing us. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Life really be life.
It does. Like all the time.
But I follow this young lady and she's in the education space. I'm a former educator. Well, I'm still in the education space. I'm a college advisor. But she says, put your positive pants on. And so I'm telling you, when me and my husband are talking around the house, I said, honey, put your positive pants on. He said, Brianna, I'm taking those pants off. But, you do what you got to do, right? So in that, so many people operate with a never-ending to-do list. I just mentioned that earlier. When you hear someone say, I just need to get it all done, what goes through your mind?
Well, a few things. One is, I get it. I've been there, right? But then knowing what I know now is that I want to grab them, consensually. I'm like, hey, I need your attention here. Hi. And then explain that pushing through may feel like it's the right move. You just need to get it all done, and then it'll be okay. But that's the path to burnout. And it's unhealthy. And I know it feels like that's the answer, but there's a better way.
Yeah, I actually experienced that last week. I said, I have to check off my 5 things. And then I realized there's tomorrow. Even
Yes.
Annie told us that the sun will come out tomorrow.
Yes.
Bet your bottom dollar. So with the traditional to-do list, like, how do we get it wrong? Like, what is the real strategy behind a to-do list?
So where we're getting it wrong, and I want to say this gently because there's so much that we do right, like having the to-do list, getting stuff out of our heads, right, and down onto paper or a digital platform somewhere safe where we can capture the things and then do the things and then check the things off, which is wonderful. Those dopamine hits, right? Woo! Check off all 5, high five. Yes, I get that, right? I totally get that. All those things are good, but where we go wrong or we kind of sabotage ourselves is that we're technically working from the wrong list when it comes to being a to-do list. Most to-do lists, because they've been created in that way that I described, become more like storage tools instead of action tools.
Okay.
So we need to get the right to-do list so that it can help us have the clarity, the simplicity, the right amount of items for our capacity. Like you said, there's tomorrow, baby.
Yes. And I follow another person that does like productivity, and she mentioned top 3. So just as a sidebar, what is your number? Like, what is your number that you say for Lisa, as long as I get X done? So what would be your X? Like, how many?
So I love that question because you said for Lisa. And so that's usually the answer. I will say that I shoot for 3 or 3 to 5, depending upon my energy levels. And 3, really, I talk about Schoolhouse Rock. I'm dating myself at this point, but like 3 is a magic number. I love that. If you don't know that song, look it up because it's awesome.
It's the jam.
It really is. And it's true. 3 is, it's like, not too few, not too many.
Yeah.
It can be just the right number, but I have to do that answer, the real answer that nobody likes, but it's the truth, is that it's going to depend. It's going to depend on the day. So really it's more like, if you're asking me what my general target would be, I would say, 3 things that I think will move the needle forward or that are, essential for the day. Because that's going to depend upon, what I'm dealing with, what demands I have, what responsibilities I have. If you're talking about 3 things that I want to work on in my business versus on my business, there's different categories.
That's true.
But as far as like, if I'm sitting down and I'm like, let me pick the top. I like that she said 3. It probably came from the concept of MIT's your most important tasks, and right,
Okay, teaching me
so
something.
that's a concept there. And then generally speaking, 3 is, it's just a popular choice because it's not too overwhelming, but it still feels like I got something done, and you
Got
do
something
want to
done.
have that feeling.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. 3 to 5 is definitely my range too. And I will admit, I have been that person who was like, I have 7 things. And I'm thinking to myself, Brianna, you have 8 hours. You got,
Yes,
you
that
know,
capacity is so important.
yeah,
Energy management is something I talk about a lot because the idea is, we say time management, right? And I get it, and we can still use those terms, but really, time is finite and specific, and it's what we do with that time and what controls what we do with that time.
yeah,
We
for
do.
sure.
It's self management, priority management, and energy management.
Man, all of that means we have to make sure we make realistic goals, like
Yes.
smart goals.
Bingo.
Oh.
There you go. What she
But
said.
another concept that goes along with that is actually the Eisenhower method. And when I was teaching in the classroom, I learned this concept and it really stuck with me. And for those that don't know about it, I just want to briefly describe it to you. So it's a matrix and it has 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is talking about what is important. And then quadrant 2 is talking about important but not urgent. Quadrant 3, not important, but it's urgent. And then quadrant 4, not important, not urgent. So when you're thinking about that, he made it very simple with these 4 phrases: do first, schedule, delegate, don't do. So, Lisa, when you think about the Eisenhower method, how does that kind of coincide? And why is that important to distinguish urgent and important? Like, why is that so powerful?
I think there are 2 important questions in here. So I'll answer the second one first,
Let's
and
do it.
then we'll dig into the other one so you can kind of see where there's overlap and similarity to how I work and what I coach, and where I think, the Eisenhower Matrix might be oversimplifying things a bit, or you can use it to kind of go back and use my system to help. So let's just distinguish between the idea of urgency, which is immediate and reactive, and it's a time sensitive thing, right? It's you're deadline oriented. That's a go thing. And I like the word reactive to explain that, because when we think reactive, there's a lot less focus, a lot less consideration. There's a shorter decision
Yeah.
time, right? Or maybe like less decision within, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes that can be helpful for us. Don't get me wrong. You'll notice sometimes, and I think people with ADHD especially love that 11th hour kind of motion, because
Yeah.
then you don't have like all the thoughts and all the I'm in analysis paralysis, and there are so many. Nope. I have like 0 options left. Got it. Okay. And we're going. So that's like action oriented. But the important side, right, is the long term, the goal oriented, the strategic, the purposeful, the purpose, just like what you're talking about, right? Is that,
Exactly.
what's driving you? And that sounds good. The word important, we're like, okay. But what we have to remember is that the driver behind it, we are using our values and our desires and our dreams and our goals and things. We are moving the needle forward on those things, and we're using those things to drive these goals and to decide what's important. It's all kind of meshed together. And when we choose what's important, when we focus on that, we live a more satisfying life.
Yes. Yes. And
You
you
know?
know what? That is something else that I have been discussing with my husband, understanding that when it's somebody else's, people have said the phrase like, this is not my circus, things of that nature.
Yes.
And so I think of it like this, we have to hear somebody's situation or our to-do list And then also assess, is that really the priority? I think that's the word I want to use. The
Yes.
priority of importance. Because I think that all three could very well be important, but then the priority, who gets first attentive, second, third. And so, Eisenhower did, like you mentioned, really kind of simplify ABCD, but then you got to zone in ABCD, but then there's me.
Oh, hey, I love that. All right, I'm going to quote you. Yeah, that's fantastic. So, like you said, with the do, decide, or schedule, right?
Yes.
Delegate, delete. I'm not so sure about that because the way that I categorize things, that delete part might be, it's not that you're deleting it, it's that because it's neither urgent nor important, it's a not now kind of thing. So going back to that to answer the first part of your question and where I stand and where the overlap is, the way that I work with getting us toward the right to-do list, right, for us is through a system that I call the 4 Ds. And there are the Ds. The Ds are right in here in the Eisenhower, the do's, the delegates, delay or defer. But my 4 Ds are in a very specific order for a specific reason. And the first one is actually the delete or the declutter. And that's because there's so many times, and you hit upon it just now when you were describing, like, okay, wait, whose is this? Whose priority? Where is this? A lot of times I love to say when it comes to urgent, whose urgent is it?
Yes.
Wasn't my urgent.
Yes.
Correct. It's like, right, an emergency on your part does not constitute, like a faster movement on mine. It's like,
yes.
We got to think about where it's coming from. And a lot of times on that to-do list that we're working from, there's things we thought were a good idea. There's things that that just don't belong anymore, that seem like a good idea at the time, that are like outdated at this point, that are just not realistic. And we can maybe revisit a concept in the future, but really they're getting in the way. We have to think about how much we clutter up our lives with other people's issues and suggestions, with obligations that come from all kinds of places that are not necessarily that me that you said with the, the 4 quadrants and me. It's like the me part. It's like, it's thinking about what makes sense for you in the season of your life. There's a lot of what I call filters to make decisions. And in the 4 Ds, that first one, delete, it's what doesn't belong. It's saying, okay, here's something that's really important in classic decluttering, in organization, when you're working in a closet or a kitchen, a pantry. You don't organize what you don't intend to keep. That's why you declutter first. Well, don't list what you don't intend to do. You're just making more work for yourself.
Again, Lisa, tell them again.
Don't list what you don't intend to do. You're making more work for yourself. That's a waste of energy.
Yes.
So think about what doesn't belong, what's lingering, what's outdated, what's an obligation where you're like, whose idea was this? And let it go. But if you're like, no, it is something that needs to get done and I feel responsible for it, now you have some options. The next 2 Ds are delegate and delay. The delegate is asking, how can it get done? Maybe it's not me and my Eisenhower Matrix and me doing the thing. You don't have to be the one to do it. It could be paid or free. And what I love to remind people is that, yes, you can ask someone to do it, but also technology is amazing. Automate, automate, automate. And now you're delegating it out. And now you're not the one having to do it.
Yes.
Then the 3rd D is to delay it. And it's not someday. It doesn't have to be like never or someday, but it's also not now. You don't want it right in your current space, getting in your way of your focus and what really needs your attention. And that's why the delete part in the Eisenhower Matrix bothers me, because something that's neither important nor urgent could be something that's long-term important to you. It's not important right now, but it matters. It's the kind of thing where when you're multi-passionate and you're so excited about some new idea and you don't want to lose it. Well, this is where delay is wonderful, because you can say, all right, I'm going to set this aside, maybe set myself a reminder in 6 months to revisit this idea. and see where I am in my life and with my to-do list and
Yes.
see what my options are. But I don't have to lose it. I don't have to remove it. I don't have to let someone else mess with it, you know. I can just set it aside. And when you intentionally defer things, it's so much better than letting them languish on a to-do list. How do you feel when something's there over and over and you're not getting it done, right?
Yeah, I feel bad. I feel,
Right?
I actually feel like, when am I actually going to get this? Like, when am I going to do something about this?
Right, right. And it distracts you from the other. You're getting so much ish done and you're like doing the things and you're checking them off, but your brain keeps looking over like, yeah,
About that.
Bree, what about that thing? Huh? And you're like, you're such a jerk. What's she like? So
Exactly.
intentional delaying or deferring can help with that because then you're like, nope, I'm not looking at that right now. Put your blinders on. And then what do you have left is the fourth D, and that's your do, your to-do list. You're taking action. And this is actually the place where I then like to use these traditional techniques that
Yeah.
you find in productivity, like, the Pomodoro technique, setting timers,
Yes, I've
right?
seen
Or
that. Yep.
the Eisenhower Matrix. Now, so think about it. If you've you've delegated some of the things out, basically removed it from your immediate to-do list, including delaying things, now the to-do list you have left feels much more doable. And now if you take that and you put it into the matrix, see how much better it's going to work for you?
Exactly. Yeah, I see it.
And you may even find if you have something cluttered in a quadrant where you're like, I have a lot that feels like it's in, the important and urgent, or I have a lot that feels like important but not urgent. And what's going on here? That may encourage you to go back to the 4Ds and say, is there something that I realistically, ruthlessly need to delete? Or maybe delay, like I need to set this aside and it needs to not be in my way because it's the clarity that's going to help you get the things done without all the stress.
Get the things done without all the stress. I
Does that
think
sound
that is
good?
like music to the business owner's ears.
Yeah.
And so in that, I love that, shifting that mindset from the do more
Yes.
to the doing what matters most.
Yes.
How can we shift that thought for the entrepreneur in their productivity?
So the simple takeaway here, right, is the idea that the doing more sounds so good, right?
Right.
But it's
Hustle hard.
yeah, exactly. And I wish I had my husband to do the quote for me from Star Wars, which is Admiral Akbar goes, "It's a trap." Like it's like that's okay. The do more, that hustle thing where you're just doing more. That if we remember, we talked about reactive, right? It's where you're like going. Then it becomes a habit. You become automated and you're not thinking about, why am I doing this? Am I doing it the best way possible? You're not thinking about purpose, right? You're
Yes.
not thinking about, what's important for you may have changed. And so instead of that trap, you need to think about doing what matters most, takes you out of that and encourages that reflection. And then you can start to think about the 80-20 principle. I can't have a productivity conversation without mentioning that. The Pareto
ahead.
principle, right? The idea that you can get whatever your goal is, 80% of the way there, 80% of the output from only 20% input. So the idea, like when you're looking through that to-do list to start and you're like, I got to clear this puppy out, you realize that you can get 80% of what you got to get done with only 20% of that list. It's like, you start to look at things, 80% of what you wear, right? The majority of what you wear is only about 20% of your closet.
That's true.
Right. Right.
That's true.
And that ratio happens a lot. 80% of your income comes from about 20% of your clients. So it's thinking about what matters most. And I don't mean that all your clients don't matter,
Yeah.
but it matters where you're placing your energy and your intention to be more efficient and effective. You'll get further faster when you do that. It's the idea of finding the big domino, and again, doing what matters equals a more satisfying life. So that's a win-win.
It is a win-win. And like you said, if I'm doing what I love, I'm doing what matters,
Yes.
and then I'm amplifying my mission. Wow.
Yes.
And so if someone listening to us today is feeling overwhelmed, like what would you say for them to regain that that footing? Like, okay, I had 20 things this week. I only hit 2. I'm behind now. Like, what would you say to that person?
So I know there's a lot of mindset that we talked about, and that takes a little bit of doing to feel that. I understand. And you might be listening and being like, "Ah, it sounds good in theory, but yeah." So what I would say is that many times taking some kind of action, right? Action will reduce your anxiety. And I understand the idea that you have so much to do and you don't feel like you're getting it done. But if you are feeling overwhelmed, first step for me, my advice, and I do it for myself, is always to declutter first. And we talked about that with the to-do
Yes,
list,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
But also it could be in your life. You may find decluttering your desk. That will calm you down. It will calm the stress response. It will take away all the visual stimuli that's keeping you from focusing properly. Declutter a drawer, that odd drawer in your kitchen. We all know what it is, what we like to call it. Don't call
Yes.
it that. But yeah, like anywhere, whether it's physical space, mental space, do a mind sweep. I have a free guided mind sweep that I offer where it's just 5 minutes of like talking you through just putting down what's got your attention and putting it down on paper. But I would say wherever it is in your life, declutter is the first step. It'll help you breathe easier. It'll help you focus better to make the decisions of what you need to do. And it just feels good when you declutter.
It does feel good. It feels good to just clear your space.
Yeah.
Clear space, declutter helps you to decide. I
Yes,
think that's a good way to also look at it. And so in
it
that,
is.
Miss Lisa, you have shared so many beautiful gems that I feel like a lot of business owners can just jot notes and really take heed and also get that free guide. And so as we close out, if someone's listening and getting behind and getting frustrated, what is that final remark or that final thought to leave with them?
Besides the fact that I'm so glad you're here because I'm encouraging you to realize there is a better way, but I would want you to take this with you. Your list is actually your list, right? The real list that you need to do that's going to get you where you need to go is actually much smaller than you realize. And once you filter through it with the things that we talked about today, you will get to what matters. And when you do that, that's where the magic happens.
When you get to what matters, that's where the magic happens. Lisa, tell everybody where they can follow you.
Thank you so much for asking. So positivelyproductive.com is my hub where you can find out about me and lead to my podcast and everywhere else. Of course, you're listening to an amazing podcast here, so you can pop right over to Positively Living. I'd be honored if you would do that. And if you're, just in the mood for some silliness, then come join me on Instagram at positively_Lisa, because I'm dedicated to doing reels that make me look ridiculous, but I do it in the name of stress management because it makes me and hopefully other people laugh.
There you go. And laughter is good for the soul.
It
So,
sure
guys,
is.
this has been another episode of Bridging Purpose and Profit with myself, Brianna Baker, and Miss Lisa. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.